We are back, week 5. Barbers United Fantasy Football League has concluded, and I'm here with my man Blake. As you guys know him as Saquad's squad, and he is currently 4-1, coming off of another win. And Blake, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, and you got your haircut on Friday, and so we talked about it a little bit there. But how are you feeling about the league, man? First time doing an auction league, correct?
Yeah.
First time doing and first time joining our shop league.
Yeah.
A lot of new guys that you never played before. How you feeling about it? You enjoying your time? Is it
I'm
going well
loving
for
it.
you?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I know this is my first time in an auction league, like you said. Most fun I've ever had. I don't know if I'll ever go back to doing it the other way.
Did you feel prepared going into the auction? Like, did you
Yeah.
have a kind of an understanding of
Yeah.
like a direction of where you were going to go, or were you completely just winging it? Whatever happened, happened.
I watched some videos about it, kind of, figure out what I should do, what players are going to be, what price, stuff like that. So I had a little bit of info, but, kind of winging it too.
Definitely. And taking the strategy of building around Saquon was very risky. 3 years ago, he was the fantasy darling. He was the #1 pick almost every year. He was, especially if you play Dynasty, which you do play Dynasty as well, I do as well, he was the #1 commodity you could have had going into the season 2-3 years ago. Now, coming off of a few injuries, not doing the best, he's a question mark. So what made you build off of him, and were you nervous?
I was very nervous, like you said, injuries and stuff, but I had watched some videos that he had talked with reporters and stuff. He felt like he had worked very hard to come back from his injury. He felt like he was going to have a big year. And, I got him for a good price, so I felt like for the price that I got him at, he was worth the risk. And so far, it's paid off.
Definitely. And that whole Giants team has done a complete 180.
Yeah.
Brian Daboll looks like a wizard. He's making it work. So kudos to you. Good one. Let's get into these matchups, guys. So this week there was still a decent amount of blowouts, but it wasn't like last week where almost every single matchup was a blowout.
Yeah.
We had some blowouts. We had some close matchups that literally came down to last night. So let's get into these. Let's break them down. We've got you here. We've started talking about you already. So let's go ahead. We're going to start off with your matchup, Saquad's squad versus Call of Duty. Jacob looking for his first win. Now, I cut Jacob's hair on Thursday or Friday going into last week, and I asked him, I said, is this your last haircut? Are you trying to get one last good one before the time comes where you get the punishment for being in last place of getting a haircut? And he was like, dude, I'm not getting last place. He's like, I've got plenty of time. My team can turn it around. He's like, I win a couple games in a row and I could be competing for the playoffs. So kudos to Jacob for having that mindset. That is correct, 100%. It is not over. It is still early. But he's being a little optimistic, for sure. And we like that, right? It's better than just being pessimistic and giving up on your season. We're seeing here you did win 22 points. Now, it wasn't the biggest blowout. It was actually a decent matchup. And, even though Jacob lost, and so he's still 0-5, it still looks very bad for him. However, he wasn't 100% wrong. His team turned it around. That's the most points they've scored the entire season. And outside of Hunter, who had the most points for anyone losing, Jacob was the second. So he beat 5 other guys in the league, and it wasn't a terrible week. And that's that his quarterback did not show up. Jared Goff, you're seeing that here. And so, his team did turn it around a little bit. Now, obviously, the story for you has been the same all season long. You're killing it. But my main question for you is, what are you doing, and how nervous are you about Najee Harris? Because other than Saquon, I don't remember which one you spent more on, but they're both pretty equal as far as the price that you probably paid. Najee Harris going into the season, you look at being your running back 1, and he has not produced. The Steelers do not look good, and I can say that. How are you feeling? What are you going to do?
I'm pretty nervous, yeah. He was my top dollar player. I spent the most money on him out of anybody on my team. I had high hopes for him after last year, the year that he had. So I put him on the trade block last week. Got some offers. I want to see how he looks with Kenny Pickett at quarterback first before I make any big decisions. But I'm still holding out hope that he can turn the season around.
So you talked about putting Najee on the trade block last week, which you did, and there was a lot of trades I think throughout the whole league this week. I don't think any actually went through, but people were sending trades back and forth, and it's kind of that point in the season where it's like, okay, we're getting to the point where we've seen things multiple times. It's not week 1 anymore. It's week 2, 3, 4. We've seen consistency. We're starting to see patterns, and now it's okay. I don't quite want to jump ship on this player, but I don't feel good about it, and it's getting to that point in the season where a couple more losses and you could be out of it. So I think now we saw it this week where a lot of chatter was going through. Trades are going to start flying because people are going to start to be like, okay, I got to jump ship on this player.
Yeah.
Another player you put on the trade block was Gabe Davis, who had a couple bad weeks. I was one of the guys who was like, hey, I'm kind of interested, but kind of the same. I didn't want to get rid of some players yet. You weren't in the spot where you really wanted to move him yet. And then, boom, he comes out with 32 points. And I text you during the game, and I was like, you still want to trade Gabe Davis? And obviously you probably don't, or you want to haul.
Yeah.
Are you pretty excited about him? Are you still wanting to trade him, or are you feeling pretty comfortable with riding out with him?
No, it's funny you say that. I actually took him off the trade block last night. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm very happy with him. You know, I think part of his struggles was because of his injury. You know, I think he's finally starting to get a little bit healthier, and it showed in the way he played.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome, man. So on to the next matchup. We're gonna go to mine versus Josh Locke, Village Idiots, and not a pretty one. Neither of us really did great. He gets the win by 14 points, and I mean, obviously, I could go on and on about my team and where I feel like they're at now. Is there anything you saw in this matchup that you said that kind of stuck out to you in the final score being what it was?
You know, I was kind of surprised that Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams kind of had an off week. You know, Aaron Jones, he's been putting up some points. He kind of struggled this week.
They lost. They lost that
And
game to the
I'll stay on
Giants.
this Kittle. You know, he's, in my opinion, I think he's one of the top 5 most talented tight ends in the league. And, you know, the 49ers haven't really been using him to his
Not
full
at all.
potential at all.
Not at all. Especially when you see a guy like Kelsey go for 4 touchdowns
Yeah,
last night.
exactly.
We can talk about that later, but golly, you draft one of these tight ends kind of high, spent a decent amount. I actually traded for Kittle at the end of it, and he's done nothing. He's done nothing. For me, this was a close matchup. We were going back and forth, and it was the 4:30 games, that second slate of games on Sunday, and I had Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown, and they were going, and it's just like, it's so frustrating watching them because the first half they do absolutely nothing. Like the Cardinals are just not even there. They just don't even show up. And then the second half, Kyler Murray goes nuts, and you're like, where is that? Like, Kyler Murray could easily be giving me 25 to 30 points a game, but he doesn't show up until the second half. And then he wants to run all over the place, throw all over the place. He looks great. And it's like, he comes out, and he's been good for me all season. He's solid. He's sitting at the quarterback 5 overall. Like, you can't complain. But he's only had 1 week where he gave me more than like 22 points. So it's like good weeks, it's 17 to 21 points. That's solid, but it's nothing that's going to help you win. And when you get a guy like Kyler, you're hoping that he does, do like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, where he can win you weeks alone. Jalen Hurts, So that's kind of depressing. And that game was just hurtful because it just, as they were doing worse and worse, my percentage just kept going down and down. And then he was playing I think it was the Cowboys defense, and they were just going up 25 points. Like, what in the world? And that just, it blew it off. There was no chance for me to catch up, as those guys were not doing anything in the first half, and he had the Cowboys defense. So kudos to Josh Locke, sitting at 3-2. I fought at 2-3. That's 3 losses in a row for me, and it's been brutal. I still believe in my guys. I have faith we can turn it around. I gotta do some better sit decisions, I think, but we'll turn it around. I have faith. So let's go on to the next one. We're gonna go to Schutz versus Josh Turley, and who you said before we started here is your surprise of the year, Josh Turley. Can you believe this?
Going back to the draft, when he spent a lot of money on Mahomes and Kelsey, and at the time, I didn't really understand it, but I mean, it's hard to argue with results.
You can't. He's the highest scorer on the week.
Yep.
Coming in at 161, just barely edges Lucas out for that. He blows Schutz out in this one, and it's the same thing I kind of said last week. He's set himself up with that foundation of Mahomes and Kelsey to where it doesn't matter what the rest of his team does, as long as they just do solid. He doesn't need anybody else to go off on his team. He's got such a good foundation from those two, getting him pretty much a guaranteed 50 points, that as long as everyone else does solid, he's okay. I mean, look at the rest of this. You take out Tyler Lockett, who did have a great game, great week. Ezekiel at 7, James Robinson 5.9, Tyreek Hill 13, Valdez-Scantling 15, Godwin 12. You know what I mean? Like the 49ers defense 16. None of those numbers are just 25, 30 points. Like he doesn't, like his whole team didn't have to go off because those two guys build a solid foundation to where as long as everyone else shows up, you're great. And if someone like Lockett goes off for 27, now you're the number 1 point scorer in the league. I blown away. Everyone, like you said, we were all shocked at the draft night, and he's proved us all wrong. He's 4-1. He's right there tied with you guys for first place, and he's looking great. On to the next one. Let's go to the closest matchup of the week that we had. We had Sam and we had Hunter. Now, last week, me and Lucas were talking about both these teams as being two guys that were in the bottom part of the standings that we saw climbing up and getting into the playoffs come end of season. And they both showed us they both had really good weeks. And that's that. Two of their guys, or they each had guys that went for 0. Darren Waller in that Raiders game gets hurt after I think it was 6 plays. He's out. And then Greg Dortch over there on the Arizona side, who really just doesn't play at all for Sam. So even with both of them having 2 guys who go 0 and cancel each other out, they still scored 130-something points, which is more than half the league. So do you have any takeaways from this game? Anything that you saw that stood out to you?
Not really. I mean, they both have solid teams. I know you've kind of been on this train for a while, but Sam has, on paper, he has always had a really, really talented team. And it's just been a matter of not if, but when they're going to put it together.
Yep.
And you can kind of see the damage that he's going to do when they start putting it together.
100%, 100%. And this game literally went down to the last second. I was watching it because I had Devontae Adams in my other league, and I was praying I needed him to get just a couple more points there. And he actually had caught a pass. It was crazy because, did you watch the end of that game at all? Yeah. So they throw the ball on that sidelines, and at first look, he catches it with 2 feet in bounds, but then the ball bobbles, juggles it a little bit, and then he doesn't get his 2 feet in after that. So then they take the completion away. That alone would have put him within points, like 1 point or .001, whatever it was, of catching Sam, because that was close to a 20-yard catch right there.
Yeah.
That's 3 points. Now you're within a point, and then the final play of the game was a bomb to Devontae Adams. If he doesn't run into Hunter Renfrow and he catches that, Hunter wins. So that one was a nail biter. Came down to the very last second. 2 really good teams, and I don't see either of them stopping. I think they're both going to continue to do really well. So Sam gets the win. He's now 2-3, 2 in a row. He's climbing up those standings as predicted. But we'll see. We'll see if he can keep it up. We'll see if he keeps. Everyone knows I believe in him, so I don't have to say too much here. But we'll see. We'll see what he does. On to the next one. We're gonna go to Philip and Marcos. Any words of solace for Philip, man? Just feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta feel bad for him. The injury to Javonte Williams, I mean, it's kind of just falling apart a little bit for him, you know?
Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, 2 guys. You know, we talked about Saquon having, you know, the allure of fantasy football managers, especially in dynasty formats. You could say the same thing about DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams going into this year. 2 young studs that everybody wants to get their hands on. Philip gets them both, and you look at him and you say, man, he's got 2 great running backs. He doesn't have to worry about it. And now he's stuck week 5 of the season playing Khalil Herbert and Travis Etienne, who Etienne has been the second back behind James Robinson. So it's like he goes from having one of the best running back rooms to one of the worst, and that's hard to dig yourself out of that hole. And he had a great draft, and a lot of people like Philip's team, and so I hope it turns around for him. I feel bad. I mean, injury is a part of the game, but man, he has just been wrecked.
Yeah, it's kind of hit him really hard.
Yep. And on the other side, Marcos, not much to say. Same thing as you, Lucas, and Marcos, and we have to put Josh Turley in that conversation. You 4, uber consistent, by far top of the league right now, blowing people out, consistently high numbers, doing great. Keep it up. On to the last matchup, we have Marcos versus Lucas. Lucas, like I said, in that same grouping as you guys, another monster performance, comes, 0.10 points away from having the highest score in the league again. Brayden, it's kind of been the same story for him all year. I don't know. Do you have any words for your boy?
No, it's, you know, the same thing with him. On paper, you know, he looks like he has a good team, but they just haven't performed. You know, you look at Dalvin Cook, he finally had a pretty good week. You know, Deebo Samuel average. You know, Judy, you know, Gerald Everett didn't do much. You know, it's kind of just been, they haven't performed, and that's kind of been the story of this season so far.
Definitely. And, you know, it was a terrible thing for him this week, but kind of a sacrifice and a blessing for the future is Rashad Penny goes out. And, you know, that's who he started, so that kind of sucks for this week, but he really had no shot of winning this week. So now he has the backup, Ken Walker, waiting on his bench, and so now he gets to start him moving forward. That could be a blessing in disguise. You know, he loses this week, but he now has Ken Walker, the clear starter, no Penny, no Carson. It is going to be the Ken Walker show, and he should be someone that you can play and not have to worry about it. So maybe he turns it up, has a good rest of the season, and helps Brayden out. So let's look at these standings at the end of all these matchups. Not too much has changed at the top. That same group of 4, maybe shuffled around just a little bit, but it's still Lucas at number 1, Marcos at number 2, Josh Turley at number 3, and Blake right there sitting at number 4, the 4-1 groupie. Been there all year together. Next we have Solely at 3-2, the only 3-2 in the league. Village Idiots, Josh Lott coming in at 5th, and then the 2 and 3 grouping, starting with Sam at number 6, who is currently projected, if it ended today, would be in the playoffs. Sam at 6, Hunter at 7, I am at 8, Schutz is at 9, and Philip is at 10, and then Braden at 11, and Call of Duty Jacob Weir at 12. So that will do it for our recap. We will see you guys in a couple of days for our predictions for week 6. So thank you guys. If you enjoy these videos, like, share, subscribe, comment, do it all for us. We'd appreciate it. So thank you, boys. See you soon.